Have you ever heard of the woman who, with a fleet of thousands of pirates, brought three world empires to their knees and achieved the richest retirement in history? No, we're not talking about nautical legends invented to scare children. We are about to delve into the true story of Zheng, the Lady of the Seas who not only became the most powerful and ruthless pirate ever, but also a leader so astute that she rewrites the rules of the game in a male dominated world. This is the story of how a woman who started from nothing came to dominate the South China Sea, turning it into her personal kingdom, leaving behind a trail of epic battles and a code of honor that still leaves us speechless today. Prepare yourselves, because his epic is one of those that, once known, are never forgotten. Imagine being born in the humblest place possible, in a brothel in Canton, today's Guangzhou. A life without hope, without prospects, destined to flow in anonymity and misery. This was the reality of Jiangxi, a girl who no one would ever have thought could one day command a fleet, let alone a maritime empire. But fate sometimes plays bad tricks, or perhaps more simply, it recognizes the indomitable spirit even in the most adverse circumstances. The turning point comes unexpectedly, a wedding, not for love, but for calculation, for survival, or perhaps for an ambition he didn't yet know he possessed. Young Jiangxi was noticed and later married by Zheng Yi, a name that struck terror along all the coasts of the South China Sea. Zheng Yi was no ordinary pirate. He was the feared leader of the Red Banner Fleet, a man who had united several pirate gangs into a single formidable war machine. Some sources say that he was the one who asked her to marry him, others that she saw it as a unique opportunity. Whatever the truth, this union was not just a marriage but a passing of the baton, a springboard to something much greater. Zheng Yi died in a typhoon or perhaps in battle, sources are uncertain. What is certain is that his death could have meant the end of the Red Banner Fleet, with the other captains ready to divide up his legacy. Instead, the unthinkable happened. It was not one of the male lieutenants who took command, but Zheng Shi himself. With political astuteness and iron determination, she not only consolidated her position but strengthened it, absorbing her late husband's fleet and laying the foundations for an unprecedented maritime empire. She was not born to lead a fleet, but the throne of the seas awaited her, and she was ready to sit there with unheard of grace and cruelty. Now let's talk numbers, Michingen, because this is where the legend of Zheng Shi takes on colossal proportions. No. The Red Banner fleet under his command was no mere band of pirates. It was a veritable floating empire, a living nightmare to anyone who dared to sail the waters of the South China Sea. Imagine hundreds, perhaps thousands of pirate junks, their red sails billowing in the wind, looming on the horizon like an invincible armada. We're not talking about a dozen ships, but a naval force that some historians estimate exceeded 1,800 vessels, with a crew of up to 80,000 men and women. 80,000 pirates loyal to one woman. Just imagine. These were not refitted fishing boats, they were efficient warships, armed to the teeth, capable of taking on and defeating the navies of several world powers. The Red Banner fleet dominated every single trade route in the South China Sea. No merchant ship dared pass without paying a toll, and no local government had the strength to challenge its power. Beijing, Lisbon, London, all these capitals in one way or another felt the weight of his influence. For merchants, the appearance of those red sails on the horizon meant the end of their profits, if not their very lives. For governments, it represented a constant threat to their sovereignty and an intolerable humiliation. Zhengshi's fleet not only preyed, it controlled. It levied taxes, managed trade, and established its own laws. He had created a pirate state, with its own economy, its own hierarchy, and above all, its own code. An organization that, due to its complexity and effectiveness, would make many of today's multinationals pale in comparison. It was an empire on the move, a parallel civilization moving on the waves, and its queen was Zheng Shi. If you thought piracy was synonymous with total chaos and anarchy, Zheng Shi's code will make you think again. It was an iron code, severe, implacable, but with an unexpected sense of justice, especially for the time. His personality was reflected in every single rule: pragmatism, efficiency, and iron discipline. Every pirate, from the most experienced to the youngest, had to swear allegiance to these laws under penalty of death. But here's the most surprising part, the one that sets Zheng Shi apart from almost every other pirate or military leader in history: his policy regarding female prisoners. In an era when violence and rape were commonplace, especially in war or piratical settings, Zheng Shi issued an unequivocal rule: no violence against female prisoners. If a pirate had dared to rape her, he would have been beheaded. If he had consensual sex with her without the captain's permission, he would have been beheaded. If he had kidnapped a woman without her explicit order, the same fate awaited him. This wasn't just a rule, it was a revolution. In the 17th century, respect for women, especially in military contexts, was virtually non existent. Jingxi, however, made it a pillar of his empire. The prisoners who proved themselves. This rule not only protected women, but also demonstrated Zhengxi's deep control over his fleet and his ability to enforce ethics, however brutal it might otherwise seem. The result of this code was twofold: On the one hand, it maintained discipline among a mass of thousands of men, preventing the fleet from disintegrating into small bands. On the other, and perhaps more importantly, it engendered enormous loyalty and respect among its men. She was not only feared for her cruelty, but also respected for her fairness, for her ability to enforce order and to protect in her own way even the weakest. This unique combination of iron discipline and an unexpected sense of justice, coupled with his undeniable skill in leadership, was the key to his success, transforming a fleet of outlaws into a well oiled and nearly invincible army. Now we come to the main course, the part that consecrates her not only as a pirate, but as one of the greatest military strategists of all time. Zheng didn't just terrorize local merchants, he openly challenged and defeated three of the greatest world powers of the time. You read that right. Three empires. The first to fall under his fury was the Qing Empire, the ruling dynasty of China. The imperial government, tired of the constant raids and the humiliation of not being able to control its territorial waters, sent fleet after fleet to defeat the pirates. But Zheng, with his intimate knowledge of winds, tides, and coastal terrain, outsmarted them every time. Its fast maneuverable junks could outflank heavy imperial warships, lay ambushes in narrow passages, and retreat into shallow water where larger ships could not follow. There were legendary naval battles, such as the one in 1809, in which the imperial fleet was practically annihilated, leaving the seas in the hands of pirates. But it doesn't end there. The European powers, with their trading posts and colonies in the region, could not ignore the threat posed by Zheng. It was the English who suffered his wrath when they attempted to intervene to protect their trade. Even the Royal Navy, with all its supposed superiority, found itself clashing with an unexpected enemy. Zheng's tactics, which involved the use of fireboats, coordinated attacks, and an unparalleled knowledge of the theater of operations, proved devastating even for the British. We are not talking about an isolated victory, but a series of clashes in which the pirate fleet demonstrated its superiority. And then there were the Portuguese. With their base in Macau, the Portuguese were an established maritime power in the region. When they tried to stop Zheng's rule, they found themselves facing the same unrelenting war machine. The Portuguese fleet, although technologically advanced, was repeatedly challenged and defeated, forcing Lisbon to reconsider its strategies and, in some cases, to seek compromises with the pirate queen. Zheng did not limit himself to battles on the open sea. His forces besieged coastal cities, made daring inland raids for supplies and ransom, and controlled every aspect of maritime life. The South China Sea was no longer just a waterway, but his personal kingdom, a kingdom founded on fear and respect, ruled with an iron fist and a strategic mind that few in history have matched. Every ship entering or leaving ports had to bow to his power. With such a powerful navy and such a vast domain, one might think that Zhengxi would have ended up in battle, defeated by a coalition of forces or betrayed by her own. Instead, his end was as surprising as his rise. Zhengxi was a brilliant strategist, but also a pragmatic woman. He knew that, no matter how strong, an endless war would wear down his fleet and his empire. The Qing government, for its part, was exhausted and humiliated. After years of failed attempts to defeat it militarily, he decided to change course. And here comes Zhengxi's cunning, which went far beyond brute force, into play. He understood that it was time to negotiate. In 1810, he accepted an amnesty offered by the imperial government, but it was not a surrender. It was a negotiation from a position of strength, in which Zhengxi dictated his terms. Not only did she obtain a pardon for herself and nearly her entire fleet, it is said that only 200 of her 80,000 pirates refused the deal, but she also negotiated the retention of much of her immense wealth. Many of his captains were integrated into the imperial navy, with roles and ranks corresponding to their experience. And Zhengxi, the pirate queen, retired. Not in prison, not in exile, but with an immense fortune, accumulated over years of plunder and tolls. He opened a gambling house, ran a salt works and a bootlegging business, living a comfortable and respected life until his death at the age of 69 in 1844. His was the richest and most peaceful retirement in the history of piracy, an ending no queen or emperor could ever have imagined for a pirate chief. From prostitute to ruler of a maritime empire, from predator to cunning negotiator, Zhengxi left a legacy that goes beyond mere violence. She proved that intelligence, courage, and an ironclad code can lead a woman in a hostile world to heights of power and success that still astound us today. His is a story of empowerment, of leadership, of how an individual can change the rules of his own destiny and dominate the world, or at least a huge part of it. If this story of courage and strategy has captivated you, don't miss out on other incredible adventures. Subscribe to the channel and watch the next video.